We promised that, first of all, I guess, are there any visitors this morning? Yes, no? Where from? West Virginia. Welcome. Anybody else? Okay. Well, welcome to you all. We promised during this season of Advent that we would be talking about the prophet Isaiah. And in this particular reading today, Isaiah is somewhat being a cheerleader. He's confronted with a nation that has kind of lost its way. People are kind of collectively depressed. They no longer really understand or know where they are going. They've separated themselves from God. They're being oppressed from the outside by the surrounding kingdoms. The economy's bad. People aren't working. There's starvation in the... Does this sound familiar? And so Isaiah's job is to bring hope. Isaiah's job is to say to those people, if you get once again connected to your God, then things will be much better. And so he uses geography, something that they would have been familiar with, to illustrate his point. So this morning he says to them, the desert and the parched land will exult, and the steppe will rejoice and bloom. Now they live in a desert. It's brown. It's not very colorful. And so what he's telling them is the desert's going to blossom. The steppe, the elevated parts, are going to bloom. Miracles are going to happen. Things are going to change. Color is going to come into this rather bland atmosphere in which we find ourselves. He says, the glory of Lebanon will be given to you. Now, why Lebanon? Lebanon is north of Israel, north of Palestine. But Lebanon has mountains and contour and greenery. You've heard of the cedars of Lebanon. It had trees. It has water. It's a very fertile land and a very beautiful land. Israel is black, or is dark and brown and deserty. And so he says to them, you're going to be just like Lebanon. This desert is going to blossom just like in Lebanon. Then he goes on and he says, the splendor of Carmel and Sharon will be yours. Mount Carmel sits near Haifa on the Mediterranean Sea and has a spectacular view of the beautiful Mediterranean, with the sun shining in the blue waters. He's telling them that these wonderful things that they all know about will be theirs. And so he says to them, and this is the point for us today, because all of us, in some way or the other, are feeling depressed. It's winter, it's dark, it's wet, it's cold. Minnesota is blanketed with snow again. Did you hear that? That they even canceled the football game. You know, talk about depression, huh? They had to cancel because the other team couldn't get in. Anyway, might be good for them. Isaiah says to us and to the people of his time, listen to this. Strengthen the hands that are feeble. Make firm the knees that are weak. Say to those whose hearts are frightened, be strong and fear not, for here is your God. And so today, when we're tempted to be depressed, when we're tempted to feel hopeless, when we're tempted to think that, oh, woe is me, all that does is focus on our own discomfort. It doesn't focus on solution. It doesn't focus on the future. It doesn't focus on our ability to accept what God gives us and believe that through his power, all things will be made well. So as you and I pray today, let us strengthen our weak knees. I don't know if your knees are bad. Mine are. I don't know if sometimes you're frightened. I certainly am. But Isaiah reminds us that we need not be. That the Lord is coming. The King, Jesus Christ, is here. And then he goes on to, he says, the eyes of the blind will be opened, the ears of the deaf will be cleared, and then the lame leap like a stag, and the tongue of the mute will sing. Miracles will happen. If we believe in God, if we make God the center of our life, if we truly prepare our hearts for the coming of the King at Christmas time, then things will be changed. So Isaiah is attempting to whip some enthusiasm up in a people that are depressed. You should see what I see. I feel Isaiah's pain. He goes on and he says, those whom the Lord has ransomed will return to enter Zion singing, Zion being the promised land. And they will be crowned with everlasting joy, and they will meet with joy and gladness. Sorrow and mourning will flee. So, my friends, today, on this third Sunday of Advent, our task is to listen to the prophet Isaiah and to realize that through his power, through the power of God, that our hearts can be lifted, our lives can be changed, our focus can be changed, the knees can be strengthened, and we can be energized, and in being energized, energize the world. If Jesus is to be born in the world again, if the world is to hear the message of Christ again, it will be because you and I told the story. It's because you and I reflect in our lives that Jesus Christ, who comes to us as King. Are you ready to give birth to Jesus? Have you given birth to Jesus through your life and your work, your words? Do you believe that the King is coming? Or are you so self-focused that you're concerned only about your own needs? The Lord is coming. If we embrace the Lord, miracles will happen, and flowers will bloom in the desert. If you feel like you're in the desert, then turn to God, and you will begin to see flowers where you never thought they possible to be. It's true. It's real. Human nature hasn't changed in 3,000 years. We need to return to God, and in returning to God, find our own glory. Be at peace.